I stood under a brand new high-rise at 9 p.m. and counted the lights. Most floors? Dark. No clickbait. This is a pattern cities keep arguing about. We're tracking the mechanism. Condos bought to sit, not to live. Pricing that outruns local incomes, and global money using your downtown as a parking lot for wealth. Then the twist, the fix isn't just more cranes. It's changing the rules of ownership and usage so empty stops being profitable. Watch this before your next "more supply solves it" comment. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. High prices are supposed to fix shortages, right? Then why do the priciest towers glow like a dead iPhone at night? Here's the thing. When the price tag outruns local paychecks, those units stop being homes and start being financial products. You think you're adding supply for people. You're actually minting inventory for balance sheets.
Rents falling by 10%. That was the largest decline in history. That is built on real estate. It's sales, it's rentals, it's management. It really probably is the first or second most important industry. But the most troubling sign right now for the nation's largest rental market is the number of empty apartments. There are now 13,000 apartments.
At a certain level, buyers aren't trying to move in or even rent out. They're trying to park wealth and let time do the heavy lifting. Developers sell the dream with rooftop pools and community copy. But go outside at 9 p.m. and count the windows. Floors of darkness don't lie. A sales brochure can promise brunch spots and dog spas all day. Light counts tell you who's actually there after the leasing office closes. And in building after building, the darkness isn't a random Tuesday. It's the operating mode. But here's the catch. Rent yield turns into pocket change when prices detach from wages. If a unit costs millions and local salaries haven't kept up, the owner runs math you'll hate. Rent it for a number that barely covers HOA and taxes, deal with vacancies and repairs, or just leave it empty and bank on appreciation. The second option looks like work.
That is an all-time high and more than double last year's total. Pay your mortgage, and there's some forbearance there, but the big issue is on the city revenues and the workforce and the entire economy in New York. Now, this is especially bad news for New York since July and August are usually the strongest month for rentals as families prepare to go to school.
The third looks like a strategy. Treat each dark unit like a gold bar in a safe. Valuable, yes. Useful for living, no. A bar of gold doesn't care if nobody can sleep on it. It sits, it holds value, and in a storm, it looks smart. That's what a lot of high-end condos have become. Vault items with quartz counters. We've seen this play out in big condo cities. Luxury segments keep pockets of emptiness while the mid-market rental tier gets bid up like concert tickets. Rent-to-price ratios tell the story. When the annual rent is a tiny fraction of the purchase price, renting makes 0 sense for an owner chasing gains. The yield is too thin, so they don't chase tenants. They chase time. Take the simple vignette. A $2 million condo. After HOA, taxes, insurance, and a mortgage at today's rates, renting it out can still leave you negative every month. That hurts if your plan is income.
It is still expensive in Manhattan. The average one-bedroom rents for $3,500 a month. But with so many people leaving the city, and since property taxes in New York are the largest source of revenue, these rental declines could start to affect services.
But if the market's been clipping 5 to 8% a year, not using it becomes rational. You're paying a carrying cost to hold an appreciating asset. Sounds backwards for housing. It's completely normal for a portfolio. Now the myth we love to recycle. Just add more luxury supply and it'll filter down. No, it filters up. Units built for capital stay in that orbit. The finishes, the HOA dues, the lender requirements, the building rules, all of it locks the unit at a price point that doesn't drift into median territory. Even resale doesn't rescue it. The carrying costs and comps keep it hovering, so you can stack new glass on the skyline and still make zero progress on places people can actually live. Because the mechanism isn't scarcity at the top, it's misaligned incentives. When appreciation beats rent checks, vacancy is not a mistake. It's the plan. Those dark floors aren't a failure of marketing. They're a byproduct of housing acting like a yield-optional asset.
About half of all apartments in Manhattan are owned by small business owners, and without the rent, they may be unable to pay their workers and property taxes.
For these small business owners, especially if you have fewer tenants, it becomes obviously harder to pay your mortgage.
Landlords are now offering an average of 1.7 months of free rent just to get tenants now.
And yes, people tried to measure it. Nighttime light surveys across multiple buildings found a chunk of units sitting empty, while nearby rental listings looked like a mosh pit. Buildings with heavy short-term use showed fewer dark windows, but that's a different problem we'll hit next. The point is, the disconnect is visible, literally, and it's baked into how the numbers pencil for owners. Mini payoff. Price levels can detach housing from people and reattach it to portfolios. Vacancy becomes a feature, not a bug. So, if local incomes aren't driving demand, who is? Let's talk about the passport money turning your block into a vault. What happens when your city becomes a hedge fund, where condos are the ticker symbol? So, here's the thing. Sin number 2 is global safe haven demand. Money with frequent flyer miles. Funds and high net worth buyers spread their cash across cities like they're building a weatherproof portfolio. They don't need a couch or a coffee maker. They need a deed, a doorman, and a stable jurisdiction. The unit sits dark, risk sits lower. It's not personal, it's a hedge. Sin number 3 is the ghost inventory. Oversupply in the wrong tier, plus pieds-à-terre and short-term flips that technically count as occupied. On paper, the vacancy rate looks fine. In real life, your friend still can't find a year lease that doesn't nuke their savings. A pied-à-terre gets used 5 weeks a year. An STR churns weekenders. Neither supports a school, a neighborhood diner, or a long-term tenant. It's housing theater. Locals stare at the cranes and ask, why is rent still brutal? Because that new glass is priced for global wealth, not local paychecks. Developers follow the money. If the only financing that pencils is high-end, that's what you get. More marble, fewer neighbors. Let's break the mechanics. With sin number 2, money treats the city like a safety deposit box. 1 unit in New York, 1 in London, 1 in Dubai. Geography as asset allocation. A downturn in one market is balanced by a pop in another. Cash flows are optional. Lights off is acceptable. Taxes and HOA are just the fee for global diversification. With sin number 3, the pipeline bloats at the top. Too many units at price points that don't convert locals. Then the owners soften the blow by using those places as occasional crash pads or funneling them into weekly rentals. Your housing stock looks active, but try to sign a stable lease and you'll learn the difference between available and available. Examples? Cities tried to push back. Some places rolled out empty homes, taxes to smoke out units that sleep through the year. Others faced steady anecdotes about prime central apartments where the mail stacks up and the lights never switch on. Markets that serve as safe havens ride cycles where capital rushes in during global chaos and retreats later, leaving a trail of impressive towers with questionable everyday life. And buildings that run heavy short-term turnover might show low vacancy on paper, but their hallways act like a hotel lobby. Zero stability, zero neighbors, lots of rolling luggage. Policy is a cage match. One city taxes empties or caps short-term rentals. Another waves in offshore money with a grin. Investors adapt. They hire lawyers, plant assets in trusts, or shift ownership through different entities. If a rule hits 30-day rentals, they pivot to 31. If a registry demands names, they post a shell company that meets the letter, not the spirit. There are wins. In places that enforced vacancy taxes and capped STRS with actual teeth, more units drifted into long-term rental or hit the resale market. Prices didn't collapse, but usage nudged in a healthier direction. Not overnight, not everywhere, but enough to prove the lever works when you actually pull it. Here's the catch. The fix isn't more cranes. It's more rules that reward use. Real occupancy requirements with audits, progressive vacancy taxes that get painful fast, clear ownership transparency so you know who holds the keys, and approvals tied to affordability bands so the skyline pays rent to the street it shadows.